I'm very excited about this next announcement that is coming. We're actually going to be generating news out of this hall today, and I'm thrilled to bring up these next two people. Earlier this year, the Kennedy Center and Washington Performing Arts jointly announced the creation of SHIFT, a Festival of American Orchestras, with performances beginning in the spring of 2017. I'd like to introduce Kennedy Center President Deborah Rutter and Washington Performing Arts President CEO Jenny Bilfield. You're welcome.
We are just a small part of this luncheon, and yet I feel like everything that has been said has led to the conversation that we want to share and the announcement that we want to share with you now. When I was speaking to you and offering the gold baton last year, I was thinking it was my last conference, and here I am again. The great thing about moving to Washington, D.C. is I now have a large palette on which to draw, and I have new friends, and yet I still have a great orchestra in the National Symphony Orchestra. Thank you for saying the words Spring for Music, Shift, and Collaborate. All great words that I want to start a little bit here. As you all know, because so many of us move from place to place, the other really great thing is going into a new city and finding out who your new friends will be, who your new collaborators will be. And months before I moved to Washington, Jenny Bilfield called me and said, I have an idea, we have to talk about it right away. And we did. So literally even before last year's conference, we started talking about this idea. And it really had to do with a very, very special festival that had its last in May of 2014. And the opportunity to think about what could happen in the future with that festival. So what is SHIFT? For those of you who don't know, this is just a little bit. It is a week-long festival spotlighting North American orchestras of all sizes. You'll hear about that. But it celebrates vitality, the unique identity, the extraordinary artistry of orchestras and chamber orchestras, and it's intended to be an immersive festival experience in the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. So why the title? Sort of an oddball title. But you heard Jesse. Did you do that for me? Thank you. He did. SHIFT. The idea is that we want to recognize the dynamic, evolving work and role of orchestras in this 21st century. And it underscores an opportunity for us in Washington, two organizations that present a lot of the performing arts, but care deeply about orchestras and believe deeply about orchestras, and the fact that people have a preconception about what orchestras do and do not do. And in the Kennedy Center, where we both spend a lot of time, there are a lot of young people who come from all over our city who have that experience. But how can we change people's perception? How can we shift the idea of what people believe that orchestras stand for? So our idea is that we would invite orchestras to apply, and that we would choose orchestras to come to the nation's capital and to flood Washington, D.C., and have that show Washington and all of the people who live and work there, all of those policymakers, what orchestras do in their community, how vibrant that they are, the huge diversity that we have throughout our nation. We're really excited about the orchestras who have been selected, and I'm going to ask Jenny to tell you about that in just a moment. But the idea is that orchestras will come, they will offer great artistic programs, they will offer great programs in a variety of unusual settings, demonstrating the full capacity of who orchestras are in schools, in community settings, in small ensembles, in large ensembles. And let's make sure that the people in Washington understand what that means. We are grateful to the League. Jesse, thank you for allowing us to be here, inviting us to be here, and we look forward to working closely with the League to make sure that the statement about the role of orchestras and the public value of orchestras is heard and truly demonstrated. in our nation's capital. I want to say thank you, and I know Jenny will say thank you as well, to the people who started Spring for Music. Their inspiration for demonstrating that there are great orchestras throughout our country and having them come to Carnegie Hall gave us that inspiration. And that series of performances were so successful that we felt that there was a real opportunity to continue it, but to take a new perspective on it. So coming to Washington, we gave it a new title. We have a new perspective on it. But it really is also about the partnership that we have with the Mellon Foundation, who believes so much in orchestras. And I say thank you to Susan Fader, who walked us through a very tight timeline to get us so that we could do this really quickly. I think we had an application in the world records time, and I think I'd been there for a month. So it can show you what great partnership with a grant maker could be. The success of this festival is really going to be based on the success of a fantastic collaboration between the Kennedy Center and Washington Performing Arts, but it's also based on the fact that there is great passion and commitment in the world of orchestras, and we're excited to tell you now about that part of the program. So I'd like to invite my new best friend, Jenny Bilfield.
So could you imagine how wonderful it was to have Deborah Rutter come to Washington, D.C. and be a friend and a great colleague and a great leader of such an important institution? We are able to do so many new things in Washington together, not only because we're there and we're excited about and optimistic, but also because we have great teams. And I know we both want to recognize some people who are here today who've come to share in the glow of the good news that we'll celebrate very shortly, but also who have really done so much heavy lifting. And I have to say, it was not intuitive for our two organizations to work together as intimately and as closely as we have, but people are finishing each other's sentences, which is always a good sign in most cases. So first, I would like to acknowledge Samantha Pollack and Jamie Brumis. Please stand up, from Washington Performing Arts and the Kennedy Center. So they have done a lot of the heavy lifting, all the arcana of the applications and the details and the existential struggles to get through beautiful and powerful applications and to really work in stewarding us to this day. And other colleagues from the Kennedy Center, I know David Kiddo is here and Eileen Andrews, Amanda Sweet. If you can stand up, people should know who you are. Everybody, stand up. Teams are working really beautifully together, and exactly, I mean, Jesse, you really did set it up for us so perfectly. So I think since the very beginning, this entire project was fueled by a sense of optimism that we felt about what orchestras are doing in their communities, and the lack of visibility that they had in some very important places, and in the sort of nuance and detail of what they were doing, that it showed not only in the main stage performances and in the artistic visions, but also in the work that was being done very directly with their audiences, and that audiences are so different from community to community, and so many orchestras had figured out very creative ways to make authentic connections and to reflect their community as much as they prioritized serving them. So when we saw the applications from all over the US and Mexico, it was very interesting to see how orchestras characterized their identities and their visions, and the applications that came to us were very imaginative. So it was a bit of a struggle to come down to the final four, but we did. The freshman class, as I'm calling it, for 2017, brought beautiful programs that involved contemporary commissions, work that they had championed and raised money to present and were really excited about. They brought very interesting performance formats. So traditional concert performances, orchestra performances, but many with visuals, with all sorts of sort of visual components and programmatic and thematic elements. Each program was defined in a very unique and specific way, and that was very exciting. There are many living composers represented on these programs of all ages and of all sort of aesthetic styles. That was very exciting to us, as well as a great deal of standard repertoire. So our audiences will see what orchestras are able to do. And it was wonderful to us as well that since Washington seems to be the epicenter of choral music in the United States, that there will be a choral component as well. So a lot of works that aren't always seen in a traditional program are possible, and they're coming to our performances in Washington, D.C. So very excited about that. As a presenter, I have to say, having a program that excites, that distinguishes itself, that is, truly unique, and where the performing group brings that energy and momentum and shared optimism, gives us a lot to work with. And I think our teams feel that we are going to dig into this with many different avenues for promotion and sharing and engagement. So let me tell you about the orchestras. There are flyers that will be circulated around, and the press release will be released later today. You can read about the different programs, but the Boulder Philharmonic, the North Carolina Symphony, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra with chorus, and the Knights from Brooklyn. Please stand up if there are representatives from those orchestras. So we very much hope that you will join us again. As Deborah said, we are very grateful to the people who created this template for us to be inspired and to grow, and to all of you for coming to us with wonderful imaginative ideas. It's great to have a partnership with the League. We are so grateful to Mellon and for the really visionary work of the foundation in supporting so many different types of artistic programs, but especially the chance to showcase these orchestras, you, and the great creativity of your work in 2017 and 18 and 2019. Thank you.